Yes, the world of celebrities never ceases to surprise, and needless to say, we were absolutely correct on this show some 18 months ago, a couple of years ago, when we predicted that Snow White being remade with a Hispanic actress, and instead of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, no dwarves, which upset all the dwarf actors in Hollywood, but no dwarves, so it was Snow White without the Seven Dwarfs, would flop. Go woke, go broke was James's prediction at the time, and it has been exactly as we predicted. They spent $475 million on this thing, and they've lost hundreds of millions, some hundred and something, $170 million loss that they've endured on their ridiculous film. No surprises there. Anyway, James, what have you got for us? Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson, the boxer. Well, he's teamed up with Bobby Kennedy, the American Secretary of Health in the Trump administration. He's got a very, very stern message for all of you out there about processed foods.
What do you think he's doing? Processed food kills. Remember that.
Processed food kills, or kills if you're Mike Tyson. Sorry, Mr. Tyson, I didn't mean to offend you. That's a great, fun little message.
That is a fantastic ad. So that's the sort of ad that actually has cut through, because you pay attention and it gets the message across and everyone loves it. That's genius. I love that. I've got a nomination. Olympic skier Breezy Johnson is her name, American naturally, and she told CBS that it's very important. People deserve to know that she's a bisexual, and she kept preaching about how the world of champions in the Winter Olympics isn't just comprised of straight white people. Well, she's just married a straight white man. So it seems like, despite all the grandstanding about her bisexuality, people are pointing out, is that just attention-seeking, or is there something else at it? And the Americans have kind of disgraced themselves at the Olympics, I've got to say, James. Not all of them. It's a small but loud minority who have just been preaching endlessly about ICE, about immigration policy, about Trump.
And, you know, it's so disappointing because, you know, when we had the Australian Open the other week, there was that New York Times reporter who kept trying to get the American tennis players to dump on America. They held the line. And
except one.
Except for one. But these Olympians, have a look at this.
I grew up as a kid who was obsessed with sports, and all I wanted to be was a ski racer. And so I just did everything that I saw that ski racers were doing. But it also was a world in which everybody was straight. As a bi person, like, it was very easy for me to just stick a piece of myself in a box. I started to kind of open that box again.
Well, the great thing is that the Australians have been doing phenomenally in the Olympics, and I just think it's fantastic that Australia's doing so well in a country where we don't really have a lot of great mountains, it has to be said.
Well, we have a couple. How dare you?
But they're not alpine.
But Rita's right that the whole, you know, the Americans have been busy virtues thing. This whole question of celebrity sports people taking their kind of position on politics, it's kind of, it's wearisome. Well, it's exhausting, but it's also damaging to sport. I think
absolutely.
It used to be understood, keep politics out of sport.
Look what happened to the NFL. Look at how the NFL blows itself up with Black Lives Matter and Bad Bunny and all of that crap.
And they are the biggest cry bullies. So they'll get on their high horse and preach about how awful this is or that is, and if the plaudits don't all come their way, if they get a little bit of backlash from at least half the country who don't agree with them, then they're playing the victim. And we saw that with these Olympians saying, oh, I'm being flooded with unpleasant messages. Well, if you're ashamed to be American, don't compete for America. Go home and perhaps move out of the country altogether, because you're free to do that as an American. You can go and live in Canada.
But also, I mean, you mentioned free to do that as an American. Notice that we never have any journalists at these things where the athletes have to take the question and say to the Chinese athletes, you know, how do you feel about your country's oppression of the Uyghur people? How do you feel about your country's threats to attack Taiwan? You know, you never would do that.
No, exactly. There's actually an American who is competing for China. She lives in America, but she competes for China.
Bit of a disgraceful situation.
She was mouthing off about Trump and ICE. No one's asking her about, yeah, what about the systematic oppression of political dissidents in China? What about the ethnic genocide of the Uyghurs?
Or
Any mention about that? None.
No,
exactly.
Hypocrites.